everybody. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. And we have no one signed up for the open forum. So we're moving on to consent. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve, but we can take some time after the motions to look at also.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion on consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Look at that, first three things done.
Can I hijack the meeting?
Please, Mr. Langworthy has something he would like to present.
So there's a resolution before you that I authored as one of my last actions as a formal member of the board. You may recall this is a vote that's been a thorn in my side
How many years?
for a few years. So previously, I had asked the question, why don't our students who are over 18 years of age vote in our school board election? I don't know. So we as a board decided to do that. And that was our practice up until this last election, when it was pointed out to us that statute defines, and the definition of the statute is in the first whereas, does not include students who are over 18 years of age, current students. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I think it's probably sloppy writing in the statute, and oversight. Probably when it was being designed, most people didn't necessarily think maybe high school students over 18 years of age would be in charter schools. But our students who are over 18 years of age have the ability to vote in their home district. So if they live in Stillwater, they can vote for the Stillwater School Board. It makes no sense to me why they should not be able to vote for this body. And certainly, this body impacts the school and shepherds that mission, and I think that they should be able to do so. So what this resolution does is it states that we feel that the statute should be revised. It calls upon Governor Dayton, the Minnesota Legislature, and the Minnesota Department of Education to do so. It directs John to pass this on to the state and also to our authorizer and other charter schools or charter school organizations that might be willing to carry this flag forward in the 2017 legislative session. If you have specific questions about the whereases or the resolves, let me know, but it basically just lays out my rationale. And I immediately point to the U.S. Constitution, Minnesota Constitution. So if you have questions, I certainly stand.
No, that's not sufficient.
So do you feel strongly about this, Jason?
No, I don't.
Well, I think it's an excellent resolution. I welcome comments, questions, thoughts. My simple comment always is if you can go to war, you should be able to vote in a charter school election.
Well, I'll move the resolution for procedural sake. We can certainly continue to discuss it.
I'll second it. Any further discussion? Take time to review it if you'd like. There's not any rush on this. Let's wait 8 years.
Is this your 9th draft? And then you work it on non-skipping?
It is,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
The other ones were on parchment, but
Yeah, exactly.
It's expensive to do.
it does to do a landscape for everyone.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you.
What a great final act.
Yes.
So, the first item on the sub-agenda is seeking new board members. So,
Do you have any words for him?
No. We can chat later.
little side fight going on here.
That's right.
So, experience, I certainly hope so. I just reiterate what I said earlier, I'm always open to questions or comments or input, so please feel free to contact me about anything, anytime. Having said that, they have all completed their required training, thanks to John and Kelly and others, so thank you very much for going through the training process, and I guess I'm looking for a motion to seat our new board members.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Can we just introduce them?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Oh, yeah,
of course. Would you introduce yourselves?
I'm Angie Schumacher. I teach 7th and 8th grade middle school for English.
Peggy Roselle, I'm in special education, in course, speech and language.
I'm Bob Highwell, and I'm a parent.
How old are your kids?
Vinny is in 6th grade and Grace is a sophomore.
And number of kids you've had or still in?
5 total, 3 have graduated, 2 left.
That's gonna be a record.
And you started in what year here?
The beginning of time.
Correct.
Correct.
And Angie, kids, and
I have 2 that graduated. They did their 4 years of high school here, and they're sophomores in college now. And I've been here, this is my 6th year.
Where are they in college?
University of Iowa.
Great suggestion, I think.
Yep.
All right, any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Please, John.
Yes, okay. And I think that we will continue on this, so I think now, are you no longer board member three?
Correct.
Yeah, so.
With that action, both Amy and I are no longer voting members of this board.
Right.
That's right, so,
You wanna go
but we're
get
gonna continue on. Yeah, so I do believe we are now 4, 4, and 1, so we still, ideally, we still wanna get to that 5 parents, 5, faculty members. We'll continue on the process that the board is designated, so. MCA scores, I just wanna go through this, just a review, and, you know, as we say, it's not always about test scores, because it's a point in time, but it is a measurement that we do see from the state, and others take a look at it as well, and, it's a testimony to the work that, is done by faculty, administration, board, parents, kids. So, this is part of our compliance, so I've just really kind of shown a couple, just walk through some of the information. Friends of Education asked us to do comparison to, resident district, and they also asked us to compare to, they're located in Wayzata, so they always want comparison with Wayzata, Minnetonka, Orono, and so on. So, really from a math, reading, and science perspective, we're 25 points above, the state. Our goal is to be, 17 points to 20 points above, so we have accomplished that goal. We always measure 3rd grade proficiency rates, that's kind of the benchmark, that we like to get in that 80%, 90% for reading and math, and then we can, that's really where it's been from a historical perspective since we started, so that's what we try to do there. So last year we were a little bit below, this year we're a little bit above, but at least shows that we're kind of in that same area. It'll be interesting to see what happens as our kids get, if we have younger kindergarten kids, what will happen with those scores. That's why we always take a look at 3rd grade. This is the comparison with Stillwater, Wayzata, Orono, Edina. So, also from our perspective, we internally look at Matamidi. And this year, I think we beat Matamidi in the math and reading. I think they're ahead of us a little bit on the science. So, with Matamidi, it's one of the best performing schools in the state. So, there's a lot of reasons why these might be different, but it's just comparison. And And then what we also do is we show comparison with the Stillwater schools because our authorizer asks us. They don't ask us, they tell us that we have to do this. So we go through and do the analysis of these, make sure that it's comparable with the K through 6 schools, the 7 through 9, and the high schools. So those are the scores there. From that perspective, from a recognition perspective, that means the middle school's been
6 years as a reward school. Last year we were the only middle school to hit it 5 times, and so I haven't seen the list yet for this year, but I would assume anybody else is.
Yeah, and I can imagine that there are many schools that have done it 6 years in a row, so that's congratulations. Lower schools is their 2nd year in a row,
And third time.
third time, and the upper school is not do Title I.
We don't do Title I funding, or we would be, that's what eliminates us from that ranking.
Right.
But we're doing just fine.
Yes. And then with that, we get the various rankings from School Digger, from the Washington Post. A variety of these come out, so we take a look at them, and these are the ones that we are aware of that have come out so far. The nice thing really is, from a testing perspective, we're the #1 district in the state, which is a nice thing to say. And it's something we should be proud of because that shows just the work that the kids have done and everybody's put in hard work to do that. So it's worthy of note and a congratulations to everyone. You see how each school is ranked, and then the Washington Post does their evaluation of the high school. And I think the thing we like about the Washington Post recognition is that one's more about opportunity. The kids having an opportunity.
Well, it's because of the access that the number of students we have and the number of those students, the exams and the courses are taking. So it's an equity access thing. So many of our kids take more than one exam per year, so. Also means that our scores are not the highest, because there are kids in those AP courses that may not have gotten an opportunity to take an AP course somewhere else. And so that's an interesting part of their data that they look at.
Mhm. Thank you, so congratulations. The second letter to Friends of Education is also part of our charter school contract with them. Friends of Education, they kind of do the double whammy on us. They want us to score really, really well, and they also want us to measure growth of kids. So what we have to do is to make sure that our growth exceeds the average growth of the state. So, and that's measured in the form of a Z-score, which we'll talk about in just a second. But they assess readiness, and they show low, medium, and high growth, and so we do comparisons with the same schools. And really we see that we perform really well on the growth level as well. The area where I'm not sure if it's of concern or something that we just have to watch, but our, just an awareness is as you perform better and better, it's harder to have that same growth. So we're seeing that our growth, the zero growth means that we are at average state growth. We're still above the growth on reading and math, but it's less growth than last year. And so we'll anticipate that it's probably going to be harder to meet that objective, but it's something we'll just have to monitor and see if there's ways to improve it or if we just can't accomplish that, So, questions on that? It's just a review. It's great stuff. Comments? Congratulations to all of you. Great work.
It's impressive.
And also it's, make the comment about the top 5 schools.
Well, yeah, it was really interesting when you looked at the top 10, the top 5 were all Friends of Education schools, all classical model, and all in existence for less than 15 years. And the next closest one was like Minnetonka or Wayzata or something on, number 6. And so Edina didn't even make the list of the top 10, so that would, it says, one, Friends of Education has figured out what the model is that is successful in schools, and that without a doubt, the data proves it's being successful. So the fact that schools in existence for less than 15 years are significantly coming in ahead of traditional districts that have been over 100 years in existence, that obviously something is happening in those schools that is the correct formula for success for kids.
And what we'd say in this is, because sometimes we get this question with consultants from, who came from North Carolina, remember last year? Yep. Isaiah, you know, yeah, Terry Roberts, sorry. Our demographic is different, so our goals are different. So it doesn't, the challenges of other schools are different, their concentration is on achievement gap, and that's an important goal that they have to accomplish. Our demographics are such that our concern is not so much with achievement gap, but perhaps opportunity gap. So it doesn't mean because we score higher that we're better than those schools or that our mission is better. It's just that this is where we are and this is what our mission is. So we're accomplishing our objectives in doing that. So I think that's something that we always try to focus on too. Okay, good. Friends of, you want me to continue, or do you want to? Why don't you go ahead with this?
Sure, I'm happy to, the next item on the agenda is the, Friends of St. Clair Preparatory Academy Bond Issuance Report, and this is a summary of the outcomes from our recent refunding of our 2008 and 2012 bonds and our issuance of $3.9 million of additional bonds. I won't read the whole thing verbatim, you can look at it, but some highlights are that we've actually reduced our lease aid, our monthly payment, analogy to a house. It's our monthly payment has gone down significantly. We have $3.9 million to spend on athletic fields, and we also have an additional significant six-figure amount to put towards building maintenance. So we caught a moment in time, thanks to our investment banker and thanks to John and Kelly and Paul McDowell and others who worked really hard, and thanks to all of you who make the school a great, successful school. We now have $29,320,000 in bonds, and Doherty Financial has done this more than anybody else in the state of Minnesota, and they're a national player in this marketplace. That's probably the most successful bond offering ever, and that credit goes to Kelly. The credit goes to the team, to John and Kelly and Paul and everybody on the Friends of St. Clair Prep board. But this is a big deal. This takes us from a place of really strong financial footing to a place of probably unparalleled financial footing in terms of charter schools in the state of Minnesota. And also, it fills out the last piece of the original vision, which was academics, athletics, and arts, and academics and character and leadership. But in terms of the actual different silos of activities, it's academics and athletics and arts. And we did the black box, the Pioneer Center 5 years ago or 4 years ago, and now we're going to do the athletic fields, and we will have some really wonderful facilities. So thank you to everyone involved.
Yeah, no, that's it. So, and a special, Bob was served on the Friends board, so was involved in that side, and no longer serving on that board. So, that's resigned, but he and others, they did some more of the construction side, selection of vendors and architects, and so that was a lengthy process as well. So there's a lot of people that put in a lot of time to get this. So I think, again, what was interesting from our perspective is that it's almost $30 million of bonds, and oversubscribed. So I mean, we almost had 5 times that amount of buying of that, which allowed the underwriter to do a little bit more negotiation. And also, in the past, we've had to do investor calls, and we didn't do any investor calls. We had one visit just because they're local, but they basically said they know the school, they know the credit, they know the history, they know the performance, they're very comfortable with it. So that's a testimony to, again, some of the things we talked about test scores and waiting lists and all of those things. So
just, I mean, the numbers that I was thinking about in terms of home mortgage, our mortgage just went from 7% to 4%.
Yeah.
And that's huge. And, so, well done. And John and Kelly, how many hours do you think you spent on this? Hundreds over the past, the first meeting with Dick Ward was in February.
So it was hundreds, easily hundreds.
Well done. And, the Appendix A is basically an annual report for the school all over again, so.
Yeah.
thank you.
Except they're mean.
Attorneys are mean. The attorneys aren't very, their critiques aren't very sensitive, are they? No.
I just add, maybe some of the hard numbers behind the narrative is pretty exciting, and Jim alluded to that. I summarized it in my, operations report, but I think now's a good time since our brains are along the lines of the bond
Yeah,
issue.
I covered it in general terms before you came into the room, but
Oh.
specifics, please.
Yeah, won't take very long. True interest cost, 4%, as you said, so that's bringing down, the majority of our bonds were at 7%, 5 million, we're at 5.75, so that's bringing that down tremendously. Net proceeds, $3.9 million for the building project. That net debt service reduction, meaning, our mortgage payment went down $235,000 a year. That is, more than what we were, falling short on lease aid. So because we are able to bring that lease payment up to the maximum level of what we can get for lease aid, we were able to build in an additional $60,000 to $120,000 depending on the year. It's a very complicated mortgage payback schedule. But right now we're paying, in addition to our lease payment, inside of our lease payment that the school gives to the building company, we pay $50,000 a year for what's called capital improvement fund that we're required to put in. Now we're able to do more, not just $50,000, but we're able to do between $100,000 to $160,000 in the capital improvement fund that's wrapped in with our lease payment to the building company. So the building company now has more money to maintain the facility, not just pay the debt, if that makes sense. So that will take an additional pressure off the gen ed budget to pay for those facility improvements and maintenance. So that's exciting and can get lost in the numbers. And then, as a part of that transaction, about $85,000 to $90,000 in increased expenses were built into our financial statements, and that's the projection that our investors saw. So it was a true cost of bringing that facility to where it's going to be. So that's going in the wrong direction. But also we were able to negotiate, and I don't know if you touched on this, Jim, but more lenient bond covenants, and bond covenants are what we as the borrower say to the investor that we will live within these rules, and those are the rules that have caused us frustration in living with them for these past 8 years. And we were able to build in more lenient bond covenants. So because of that, we're going to have more freedom to spend our savings account, which is our $3.5 million in fund balance. And we're able to provide, we're needing to save a little bit less than we are saving annually. So the net of all of that is that we'll be able to add roughly, and we're still working out the detail, but $400,000 to $600,000 that will be freed up in our gen ed budget for salaries and programming. Annually. So it's huge. And I have to say, it's really what, I mean, I have goosebumps from head to toe because this is what I personally have been working toward since we decided that the bond issue in 2008 was the best way to go, is working toward this call date, and to have this more favorable rate environment is fabulous. And to get a chance to go through the bond issue process a little more educated than we were the first time, so we really came, I feel more toe-to-toe, a little bit more strategic in all of our costs, and what we were being charged for the product. We were just a lot more savvy investor, or borrower this time, so. I'm delighted to have had another shot at it, and the school's in a lot better shape because of it. Thank you, so.
Kind of a comparison is they provided us the Edina bond issuance of a year ago, I think it was.
What's the interest rate environment? very different, but Edina,
Yeah, but still it was, they were 3.5% or 4%, so it was just a 0.5% difference. So Edina's backed by state, we aren't, and so it's still, it's exciting to see that the school is viewed that way, so that's good. Good, thank you.
That's great, good work. And I just, if there are any questions about the bond issuance, about process, about what has been accomplished, and we've spent a lot of time on it, but it's probably the biggest, the single largest or most significant financial event in the history of the school, so it's a big deal. If there are questions, please ask now, or call Kelly or John or me.
Yeah, because, yeah. There's a whole due diligence checklist, it's probably 3 pages long. On the friend side, it represents all kinds of agreements that have to be in place, all kinds of evaluation. On the school side, it's all kind of agreements, lease agreements, it's just a lot of work. Good.
And a great outcome.
Yeah.
That, one of the last point, and I'll be quiet, I'm so excited. One of the things about most new buildings like this is they don't have enough money to maintain them. And one of the things this does is it puts enough money in the budget on an ongoing basis to really maintain this building well, so that it will age well, so that it will serve not just this generation of kids, but hopefully 2 or 3 generations of kids. And that's a really meaningful change just in the building itself, and then the money that rolls forward for, if you look at the time value of $400,000 to $600,000 a year over the life of the bond, we're talking about an enormous financial benefit to the school. So thank you, John and Kelly. And Paul McDowell, who's not here to hear it, so he doesn't like praise anyway.
Good, good. Thank you. So that was kind of really the start of operational reports. And I think at this time, just to kind of give a quick, for those of the management team, leadership team that are here, just a quick overview of your report, kind of what you did for the first start, how the start went. And then I think one of the reasons we do this is because there's just a lot that goes on to do this. So, Joanne, you want to start?
Sure. Alrighty, we had a great start. The best start since I've been here in my 3 starts. We are at capacity at 450 students, and we have several new staff members, but we were fully hired by the first day of school. When we added the kindergarten 3-hour EA positions, we've had a really hard time keeping those positions, and so the fact we started the year off with all of those filled, it's just a really exciting, it was a really exciting start. The new teacher workshop and then the back to school workshop with the teachers, we did a lot of beginning stuff like explaining how to give a step test and some of the basics for the new teachers. Some of the seasoned teachers who returned, we really talked about what our behavior and our character education is in our school. We focused on growth mindset, which is one of our board books, and what does that look like in the lower school. So we attended a training, and out of all of the staff, I think there were only 5 missing, including EAs. So it was a really good day for us to get together and really talk through what it looks like in the lower school. So we're getting rid of color changes in the lower school for behaviors, and students are writing ABC goals, academic, behavior, and character. And it looks different from kindergarten all the way up to 4th grade, but what does that mean to them? And the older they get, the more scores and the more stuff they have to look at and evaluate. In those conversations also, we talked about behavior and getting rid of color changes. What does that look like? And so we're implementing a new character notice, so teachers are going to do a form of discipline before it comes to me at the administrative level. I give golden rule forms, which is the referral basically to notify parents of behavior. We had a golden rule ticket, which was also a reward, and it got to be very confusing. So we changed that to be a Lion Pride ticket and a Lion Pride breakfast now that they get to have with me instead. It's still the same parameters, but it's just really focusing on who we are in the lower school and taking pride in being a lion. We kicked off the year with a great start with hearing about our MCA scores. We worked really hard last year at not only our reading goals, but what does each transition look like between grade levels. Prior to me coming, I know that they had looked at, where does the curriculum fall, but then since I've been here, we've been looking at what do those transitions look like? So what does a transition from first to second grade look at? We've made some changes there. What did transition from second, third, third to fourth, and then fourth to fifth? And how can we better serve our students and not just the academic aspect of it, but looking at them as people and trying to manage and organize. And so last year we got the lockers around, I want to say it was around end of October, the beginning of November. This year it's been a completely different start, just having them at the beginning of the year, working with students on organization. We also kicked off with high MCA scores, so it was really a tribute to the teachers and the staff of the hard work that they've done. And we started goal setting last year, so how did that help? And then how are these new goal settings going to help with adding the behavior and the character? We started last year with a parent night, which was just for the lower school parents to go in and meet their teacher. This year we offered 2 sessions so that if parents had multiple kids, they could go to they could see at least 2 of their teachers. If they had 3, hopefully they had somebody that could go and take notes from the 3rd or 4th teacher. And so we have received a lot of good comments on that, of just hearing about what the classroom expectations are. For the first time in a very long time, if ever, the lower school all has lunch at the same time, and that was quite the hurdle for us. That was probably the biggest hurdle, having 450 little people in the cafeteria all at one time. Thank God they put new tiles in the ceiling, because their voices are very high and loud. But it's been a lot of fun. But you would be amazed at how you have to make a map that shows the flow of the cafeteria at that time. So, and everybody's being fed, and we've changed some cafeteria things of getting the numbers ahead of time. So now that's running very smoothly, and it's kind of exciting to see that we could do it. So, and now there's only one lunch, so we're in the cafeteria for 45 minutes instead of for 2 hours. So that's benefited everybody. And recess is now in the afternoon, so that middle school could have lunch after us and have their recess at the same time. So grade levels are taking recess together instead of having 1st and 4th graders together and kindergarten and 3rd grade together. So that's an exciting thing. In communicating with parents, we are trying something new. We're trying to all send out emails from the same format. Last year, Nicole Donnet piloted a s'mores account, and it was well received, and the teachers can now see the data of who's opening up the emails, and how often and what information, what links are clicked on. And it's a pretty easy thing for the teachers to create, where they can embed a Google Doc for signups. They can attach a link to, if they have a field trip, they can put the actual location where somebody can get directions through these emails. So we've received some comments that the parents are really liking them, and that's been a positive thing. I've even tried it and just send out my weekly newsletter to the teachers that way, and every week it's a little easier and it's kind of fun. Let's see, we're changing our division meetings to every other week from monthly, and with new teachers being in the building, we have about 1/3 of our teachers being new. We're going to change our division meetings to be professional development versus just spewing of information. That's what my newsletter can be about, and so that's how that has changed. And I'm meeting with the new teachers daily, just to see what their highs and their lows and shocking things for them that they just had no clue. And there's just new teachers, sometimes you just forget what they don't know, and so it's a place for them where they feel safe. And Ms. Kais is helping me with those, and where they can come and just ask questions like, what do we do in a fire drill? Where do we go? Things like that. We had a fire drill today, so that's why that's fresh on my mind. So let's see. We're just continuing to work hard and set our goals and try to get our students not only the foundation they need, but prepare them for the middle school. So that's kind of the start. It's been a great year so far.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Well, ours, because we were rolling over to Synergy, we had to have our schedule done by July 1st. So that was a real push, because normally I'm still using the computer to balance classes up until the last minute and try to keep sections from 1 hour to the next balanced. So that was a challenge, and just the extra trainings and work in teachers, like Angie spent a lot of time poking around it this summer, so we found things that we needed to get some questions answered or get fixed before that. We moved our...
I know what Synergy is, but does everyone know Synergy?
Okay, Synergy is our new computer, management system, so it went from, Ties, to Synergy.
It went
And
really
we're-
smoothly.
Yeah, so parent view instead of the school view.
Went terrible. So we're still in process.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's still some things where it's like, what do you mean I can't run that report? Or it's like, I can't be the only principal asking to see what everybody's doing in a class, besides having to go into 10 different grade books and print each one. So that kind of thing has been interesting, but so far so good. We actually are, making it work. We moved our 5th grade orientation to Tuesday night this year as opposed to the Friday before. We were not sure where we would be at with lockers and things, so we needed a couple extra days. But we also had heard from parents that, with the early start, having to have something the week before yet was, one more week earlier in the summer. It would have been about August 15th that we would have had that. So that worked out really well, and we had a really good turnout. It's probably been the smoothest start with 5th graders that we've ever had, and I would think that the lower school, having had lockers, even though they don't have to, themselves learn how to do their combination, but they're at least used to getting things in and out of their locker. So that was less of a, deer in the headlights look for them. And we also moved the 5th graders down the hallway because with the changes in our schedule this year with absorbing a couple staff people, we actually have 7th and 8th graders a couple hours a day coming to either social studies or language arts classrooms. And so the 5th graders got moved down and the 6th graders stayed where they were, which has worked out really well because 5th graders tend to take everything out and lay it on the floor. And that's a less trampling pathway. And even today we said, okay, we have a bottleneck between 5th and 6th hour, so we let one group out a minute early so the 7th and 8th graders are out of the hall before the 5th and 6th graders come. So we're still working on, those kinds of just flow things and, like where we line up so that lower school can get out of the cafeteria. So we're going down to 7, 8, going down the athletic wing hallway, 5, 6 waits in the atrium so that they can get out, and that's worked out well.
So the noise you hear around noon is because we have all middle school waiting for lunch and lower
And
school
lower school
coming out.
coming out, so 2/3 of the building is
Yeah.
now.
It's only 5 minutes
going.
though, like
Yeah.
8
Yeah, and we've had a really smooth start with our new teachers too, so, we have been working really hard on just getting them, feeling comfortable with everything, and it's been really quite a smooth start for us, so.
Good. Good.
Andrea? What was the question? It's homecoming this week.
Yes.
And we're doing stuff. Okay. Good stuff. So, the start of the year, I think, upper school is, I think it's gone as smoothly as possible. I mean, we have 42 new students to St. Croix Prep, some of them 9th graders. I met with all of them last week individually. We sat down and got to know each of those kids, why they're here, what they're looking for, setting goals, and I think that in and of itself, to be able to do that is a big deal. My new teachers were, the trainings that Amy and Anna put together, our back to school weeks, I think the agendas are in here somewhere. You can see that we spend a lot of time teeing everyone up to be successful, and I think what's become evident, I realize that this is a group effort now versus kind of one-to-one stuff, and so we count on a lot of people to make sure a lot of things get communicated. And then folks that are here feel comfortable and understand what we're doing, and that, I think, is different. I mean, it just is growth, and so that's been good for me. I feel more confident this year about seeing the edges of what needs to be fixed and ready to go. The synergy thing felt kind of like you had your hand tied behind your back. Things that normally don't take a long time took kind of a long time. It was clunky getting to know it, and that did cause just some irritation. And then I put out something to our parents to just to say, bear with us with grade book, it's, don't worry, we're keeping paper copies.
Number 2 pencil.
Yeah,
should
it's
come
the
from
old
you.
school way, people are like, you guys used to use these? I was like, yeah, we did.
Some of us still do.
Some still do, yeah. But the details, I kind of threw a lot of the stuff in the report, but it's just day-to-day stuff that comes up with kids and families and parents with questions, and so it's been, I think, productive and positive. I don't know, a lot of good ideas for some of our new kids to come in and do some background articles and get some kind of get to know me things. All our kids, the first thing they say is people are nice here, and they're surprised. And so I always think that that's cool to hear, so I ask them those questions all the time.
And, yeah, I've heard some of your teachers in lower school, they say that they mention an assignment and then there's a rustling and they are surprised and they look around and the kids are taking out their planners. And they wanna call their friends and say, look at this, like, this is what they're doing, they're,
Someone said that?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not normal.
It's not, no,
Yeah.
so,
It's
I
not
mean, I
normal.
think that's good stuff.
Yeah.
So,
We got a lot of kids with a lot of, huge aspirations, college goals, college planning stuff that we're talking about already 9th grade, and we had an all-school advisory. We used to talk about getting everyone in a room and telling them the same thing, kind of reviewing the rules. And we just have real interactive. I mean, it's informal, so kids are comfortable. And we're just talking about the year and setting up expectations. Senior privileges, that you uphold the culture of the school, that you make sure people are included. If you see someone at lunch that's sitting by themselves, you go over and introduce yourself. And those are the things that we're having these kind of, and then you see it happen, which is so cool. So,
good.
it's good stuff.
Yeah, Corey? Corey?
Okay, so now I have to say the same thing that you did. This is a really good start to this year. It really was. I mean, I think it was a very interesting summer, making all of the pieces go together like you need them to do, the right people in the right place. And special education, and I've said it so many times, we have to follow all the legal rules, statutes, federal laws, state laws, that any district in the state of Minnesota does. So we don't get to change that way. We also have to have the same fiscal responsibility as if we were Stillwater. What we can do differently is change our programming, and that's something that we've done in the summers has really made a difference. Wanda and I've worked really closely. I mean, sometimes we have 2-year teachers, sometimes we have 3, sometimes we have 5 EAs, sometimes we have, just depending on the students, who's moving from the lower school. This year, Joanne and I talked a lot. We have about the same, actually we don't. We have 10 more lower school special ed students than we had in the past. And many that entered, like 80% of them came in with needs that were greater than anything we had to, program for in the past. So that makes your dance as far as your staff, we need more educational assistance, we need more, help. A person with a physical therapy license just happened to stop by the other day, and I wanted to just, can I take your arm and keep you here? I was like, whoa. Our OT left at the very last minute just because she got a job in Farmington where her husband is the head football coach, and the Farmington band comes to their house and plays after the games. And it was, yes, the school was next door to her, but how do you replace an OT? Well, we ended up, we've got 2 people. One who's coming here from another charter, Beacon Academy, so she likes charter schools. And then we have someone who's worked here in our lunchroom and said, I have an OT. So that was another one of those immediate conversations. And so they're just working out how to strategize so we have full 5 days of service. 3 new sped teachers in the lower school. All are just doing excellent. We added a teacher in the middle school, and then we have 1 less teacher in the upper school, so it actually balances out. The thing that I really wanted to do since I've been here is we call the position Special Education Coordinator, and in fact, that position, and Lindsay DiMartino had been in that position, it was more of an administrative assistant. It wasn't, the person wasn't hired because of their knowledge of special ed, they were hired because of their office skills. Well, I was able to change it, and we found the right person. Her name is Shirley Volk, not Volkswagen, because many people have emailed her, that last name is Volk. With 10 years of experience in special ed, she's been a lead. She's worked in West Central Minnesota, would I say that right? From Hutch. Hector from my old school. Right, and as soon as Wanda saw her name, she immediately got on the phone and checked. And she's also been in intermediate districts. What she's actually knows special ed, is training the new staff, is there at meetings, is, you know, saying, here's how we should do it. It's a really good idea, and it's been very, very beneficial. Our numbers have stayed the same. This month of September, I have literally probably spent 80% of my time writing 504 plans. 504 plans are for kids who also have a disability. It's different in that the service is provided by the general ed population, but many of its structures, the plans and permissions and so on, I've done the same as special ed. Let's see, oh, and here's a great thing, it's paragraph down here. We were cramped. I mean, we would have lunch bunch with, 7 boisterous kids, 2 teachers, 2 EAs in that, a back room, where you could feel the heat and they were only lit kids, and then the joy and the noise and the whole bit. So we now are sharing with Gen Ed the old computer lab, which we are now calling the Learning Lab. The blue lines on the floor is where the partition walls will go in. And it's just been so joyful. It's just to walk in and see kids at tables and doing their learning there rather than this whatever we were. I mean, it's just good. So we're real happy about that, just to see that happen, and hope that, we come up with more and more ways to use that room. So, that was good.
Thank you. Cory, just, like, in a minute, just explain how SPED is different in lower school, middle school, upper school, just from evaluation and so on, just so that people understand you kind of have to morph.
We're very different. In lower school, some of the kids come in with IEPs from other districts, but the majority we identify. It's our kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade teachers who say they bring the students to child study, and Joanne works with them, they talk about it, what can we do first before they go to special ed. So our teachers there are paper intensive, they do many, many more evaluations and things because of that fact. Middle school, occasionally we will identify a student, mainly kids who have come from parochial schools, who just don't receive the service in a parochial setting that they can here. And then upper school, the numbers stay the same basically because it's some graduate and then the others come up from the middle school. So same service, they do transition in the upper school, but paper intensive, right, in the lower school.
And ours would tend to probably be, if you're not getting identified till middle school, it's probably an other health disability that didn't show up until you're a little older, and things as opposed to more of a cognitive in lower school.
Good, thank you. Good. Kelly, any more on your report? Okay, why don't you do that? And then, Amy, then could you just explain what we try to do with training with that, and education upside down?
Yep.
Eric, but you can go to your volleyball game. You have volleyball activities?
Yeah, well, volleyball, the girls are playing here at 7, so I wanna go check in.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Wanna wait for the finance report or just go?
We can watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll know I'm here for that.
Well, you two work together.
Yeah.
Tough acts to follow. Finance, report to the board. I had indicated, if you had a chance to read the board packet, that I'd asked for approval of annual designations, but we're gonna put that off till next month, so that meant to be removed from there, and I must not have saved before I pressed send. Second item on the board actions is to vote to approve finance committee's proposed report reporting schedule and process. So, finance committee have been meeting this fall, and we have, in an effort to articulate better what to expect from us and a proposed plan of reporting, we've put this together, and would now be a fine time to do board action, or would you like me to circle back on it?
Do it now.
Okay, so what we propose to you is to, and it has been our loose practice, but we tend to, and Susan, please speak up if I'm misrepresenting what we decided, or the proposal, is to provide the financials to you monthly, but to present them quarterly. We would like to lay out something formal so that we are held accountable to that, and that's what is largely behind this. So I'll start with that. Quarterly interim financial statements provided to you quarterly, and I'm proposing that they be presented at the board meeting following the first board meeting following 30 days after quarter end. So if quarter end is on September 30th, it would be the November board meeting that we would present the quarterly financial statements. And that would follow for the December board meeting. For the December financials, what happened in March? Well, I left it off, sorry guys. June, so the 4 quarters. And at any one of those meetings, we may request to amend the financials, or amend the approved budget. So that's one component, is that would be our quarterly reporting schedule to you. The annual budget schedule that we'd like to propose is a preliminary budget sent to you in March and or April. So possibly 2 preliminary budgets, but the final budget would be submitted for approval in May. And that being as close to year end as possible, but to give us enough time to execute on the contracts, agreements, offer letters that need to be done before we get to June 30th. That's that. Other financial reports. So historically, you are used to receiving the monthly financial statements and monthly supplemental reports. And by monthly supplemental reports, I mean the check registers, the cash receipt journals, and some commonplace. Chad, are you listening? To post these documents that you can go to, but I'm not sending them out to you. Monthly.
Sounds very 21st century.
Okay. Very paperless. And note each month's activities that are posted to, so, for example, July and August activities, all these supplemental reports and the monthly financial statements will get the pertinent information, the high level information that we would like to show to you or make sure you take note of, will be included with that quarter end presentation to the board. But they will just be posted on this portal or in these drives that you have access to for your reference if you'd like to access them early or go back to them. That make sense?
That's great, great concept.
So that's the cycle. Anything to add, Susan, on that?
Hey, copy stuff.
Okay. Those are how we'd like to bring that to you, and just our thought was a motion would be in order that we could refer back to what the practices in the minutes would reflect it.
So we're looking for a motion, but just before that, I wanted to say that, just to reiterate what Kelly already said, this has been in practice for some time, maybe for a couple of years at least, but it's really great to formalize this. This is what we need to do as a board for all kinds of things, so thank you for taking this step. And I'll make the motion to approve the quarterly financial reporting as, or the financial reporting as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion?
So you can just let us know like that, where we can find it, when we figure it out.
Yeah, I will email it to you until we find a portal, I guess.
Okay.
The goal is to get it to a portal, but.
That could be, I don't know how many months away still, but it's a good goal, but we're still going to continue the process of pushing it out, right?
I'll push it out to you by email until something else exists.
Other good questions? Other questions of any kind? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Good.
Thank you. Okay.
Now we've got to live up to it, Susan.
Yeah.
Okay. For the, oh, I got one. This wasn't one. present the audit report to the board in November. Amended lease aid application's been submitted to MDE, based on the bond reissuance. We have a brand new lease to send them. Compensation committee is, working, and that's Deb's, piece to report, but I just wanted to say that the finance committee is also working in tandem, so that, $400,000 to $600,000 line that, or number that I threw out regarding the bond issuance, we're working in tandem with the compensation committee to, incorporate that with the compensation plan that we'll be proposing. So we're there to do analysis and scenarios.
And that's way more exciting than field development, right, teachers?
It is exciting. This is a big deal. It's really fun to see it summarized.
It's like taking a weight loss, I'm happy about that. So we're working on that, with a goal to bring the, plan to the board, through the compensation committee, to bring a plan to the board by January 17th. Technology implementation, so we in the, business office, support roles that, I represent, really took a backseat to Synergy, so you guys think you're behind, we're even further behind, because anything I wanted to do this summer got put behind Synergy. So we're a little bit behind, but we've managed to put together a Destiny resource management tool, or it's a web-based inventory management tool, that's gonna improve our inventory management, efficiency, accountability, tracking.
Can I just speak to that
Yeah.
experience? Because Kelly, this was kind of the start of the school year, just to inventory our books and hand them out. And people were like, well, I'm not sure how to do it, or when am I gonna do it? I know it's easy, but Kelly, we kind of got together about, what, 2 days? Day before, and I said, I just need you to do this. And she came up on the floor, upper school, and spent all day scanning textbooks and doing the inventory the right way, so that we have it done.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it was, and now everyone's just, it's comfortable that people are in it, but we had to have someone make it happen, right? Especially on day one, and Kelly did it. So.
Still, every 12 years, you
Yeah.
go to
We have a little cart that she got, and she got the.
At one point, you were like eating your salad and pushing your cart at the same time. This is a
Well,
dedicated lady.
On my bucket list is musical theater.
Oh, well, there it is.
And so, as I got more comfortable, I would be sliding in with the book cart saying, there it is.
That's when things got weird.
The costumes get wet.
When I get comfortable, I usually go too far.
But we know who has what books, that's for sure.
Yes, that's the most important.
And I dumped it on them, I've asked too much of them, so I wasn't, so it all worked out. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal.
So that happened in the 11th hour. The fee pay conversion, again, is still bumpy, and parents are being very good sports, good sport, but, you gotta fly the plane, and we're doing that. And we've purchased and have yet to implement, but it'll do that in the near future, is Boomerang. It's a web-based donor management database, and that will, kids, whether their parents donate it or not, so. A little bit about that we've been able to build that into the budget.
Kelly, will that be for field trips for next school year or this?
This school year, so we'll roll it out and try to spend it all before the year's over.
Great.
Thank you.
So I asked the question earlier tonight of John of why we got rid of ties. It's because they just stopped supporting their software. So it wasn't I'd forgotten that, but it wasn't a choice to switch, it was a necessity. And that makes it all that much more painful. You're forced to do it and you get punished.
We did ask in one meeting if they could just roll us back. We were like, oh, no.
There's a classic adoption for mainstream, or actually a laggard application, trying to migrate to a pre-chasm, which doesn't have as much functionality, it might be easier to use, takes longer to do it, all that kind of stuff. Cool. Amy, do you wanna go through this?
Yep. So our teacher orientation, the first thing on here, that's really dealing with, second year teachers of St. Faircraft and new teachers of St. Faircraft, and this doesn't mean that they're brand new teachers,
hours, but we did have a lot of brand new teachers. So this is a whole week, well, really Monday through Thursday, and then Friday they can be in their classroom, but we, every year, that I've done this, so this is my third time doing it, we say, we're not gonna hit them as hard, we're not gonna burn them out as much. And then August comes, and we hit them harder, and we burn them out more, because we find throughout the year, I mean, there's some notes I have on here, I think you got my note sheet, but we reflect on what do we see as the gap. So what do we need teachers from, not same grade prep, coming in, maybe fresh out of college, that have learned all about progressive education, how do we break it to them very, very nicely, that we don't do that here? And that's really hard to do, because they're so excited, I mean, their energy is just fantastic, and you sit them down and say, welcome to St. Clair Prep, everything you learned in college we're not gonna do. And that's really hard. And so we did a lot of articles, we did a lot of seminar discussions. We really used those second year teachers who had already taught here as kind of mentors of, you know, this is, oh, and on top of that, we have to talk about policies, procedures, how we function, where do we go for a fire drill, what is the marathon, you know, stuff like that. So it's a lot in 4 days, and I feel like they're burnt out and we're burnt out, and we only hit the tip of the iceberg. So that's why it's really important that all of these things are set up, and that's part of my job too, is to work with the new teachers, but they're really working with their administrators, and I'm just kind of, you know, the gap filler on it. So I'd be happy to send any of these articles if you ever want to look at them. They're really good. They're ones we kind of circulate back, and I have a rotation so that I'm not using the same one that one group used, so I kind of rotate them out. And we find new ones too, and then, I don't know, a lot of it, and to be honest, we did talk about seminar, but not as much as we have in the past, because we were trying to really fill up what classical education is, which brings me back to the point of, a couple years ago, 5 all staff read A Well-Trained Mind. It's a real hefty book, but it really talks a lot about classical education and the nuts and bolts. And so we dug into that a little bit with the group, but I'll also I meet with them monthly, so I'll be using that as PD, like Joanne says, to just kind of fill them in on the rest of that stuff. So that was new teacher orientation, and that was Ann and I, and there was about 23 of them total between the two groups, and then we lost, you know, about 5, and then not because they left, but because they were returning teachers, and then the rest were with the new group. And I will say, because I feel proud of this, and I really felt proud of this, and a lot of it was really done by admin and Carrie and Andrew, but we had some amazing compliments at the end of that training. And it felt good because we want to set them up for success, but we don't want to bury them, but we end up doing it anyways. And so for them to say, like, this was really beneficial, and we enjoyed our time, we had some good laughs, that's really what it's all about. So that they start off the year not feeling like, oh my gosh, what did I sign up for? But they're excited to work here. So they've had a lot of good things to say, and met with them all for the first time, and the structures that have set up, and Shirley got a lot of really high compliments on what that looks like, and just the check-ins here, so good stuff. All teacher training, again, every year, and that is really doing a lot with just information with all staff, and that's working with the admin as well, and just people kind of reporting out. But the one thing I kind of want to focus on, which Andrew kind of talked about, I think, at previous board meetings, but Eric Colenz is an author of Education is Upside Down. It is a book that he, Carrie Becker actually found the book, sent it to Andrew and said, this is a good book. Andrew was like, hey, this guy has something going on that supports what we're doing here. And he basically is saying, the current education system is kind of upside down. And so he met with Eric a couple times, and then Eric met with John, and we all just kind of had him come in, and the thing that we're realizing now, which you don't know until you try, is we didn't want staff to read the entire book before they came, because we felt like he would do a good job introducing, but at the same time we think, well, we probably should have them read a couple transfers, because there was some confusion a little bit on like, what is this guy doing, right? Because he essentially came in and dropped the bomb of everything that you basically have been teaching on techniques and strategies. Some of those are not useful, and here's why. His eyes got really big, some anxiety set in, school's right around the corner, and now we're like, hey, and have a good year, we're gonna be working with this guy all year long. So we're gonna be taking some chapters out of his book and giving it to staff to read, and we're working with him, and he's an author, but he also sat down with us, and he's kind of like an education consultant, and he's just saying, I've been in these schools, and I've seen what's going on, and you guys are on the right he's just supporting what we've been saying. So it's not the same voices like Charlie Brown over and over and over telling, you know, everybody this is what it's supposed to be. Yeah, you know, same thing over and over. So we're really excited about that, and we'll continue to report out on it. But we've ordered a couple copies of books, and if you want to see that, we can give that to you too.
And he's a local guy who
Yep.
is from Minnesota, taught in Minneapolis Public Schools, and consults for a lot of Minnesota school districts.
Yeah, and he's been there, he's seen it. And so, you know, a lot of us have too. We can say, well, we've taught here, or we've seen this, but he just brings it all together, and it's really refreshing. And it's not initiative, which we're trying to focus on. It's supporting what we're currently doing. So
Is there
it's,
a three-sentence summary of his thesis or his premise? I mean, I know education is upside down, but I mean, is it,
It's a lot about content and curriculum is what is important, and that, being able to get that in, to funnel that down, to have a student be able to then use that for college and career
yeah.
thing, and how that all works.
which dovetails perfectly with Edie Hirsch? and-
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and Edie Hirsch is mentioned a
In
lot
the
in his book.
That's good. And then the rest of the time, really, to be honest, was specific division work, everything that is synergy, and time in the classroom. So we got some really great feedback on this. Corey's department did an excellent job reporting for SPED. So I think we finally found a good format for PD Day or PD Week. We can't avoid the 4-hour session sometimes. It's either like you get 4 hours in your classroom, you get a 4-hour session, or you mix it up. So we found a balance, but I think it went really, really well.
It's very, it's something an enormous undertaking, thank you.
So to summarize,
Yeah.
enrollment goal, it's the same, approximately 90 per grade, we're at 1170, so last year we were like 1161 or 2 or 3, depending on the time, we're about the same again. So, that's the same. I think this year was a little bit different in the sense that, I think everybody was running full speed on their own path, but going towards the same goal. So, you know, we talked about all the facilities work, the bond work, the training work, Chad installing new video cameras, paging systems, synergy. So, in a way, the start of the school year was kind of a welcome relief, because we were all, okay, now we have class stuff. So we're still trying to recover from some of that, but, you know, all in all, it's been good. So, but this has been nice to just kind of settle in. So I think everybody's a little bit tired, so, just because of a lot of stuff going on. So, it continues, I mean, the activities, technology stuff, it all just kind of flows in. You heard all the technology mentioned, so that means that Chad's busy, because that's what he has to do. And that's along with the normal responsibilities of trying to maintain mobile labs, Chromebooks, and everything else. So, email addresses for kids and everything else. So anyway, that's that. I think it's a great start to the year. Probably been the smoothest that we've had since we even been in this building. So even bus and traffic there were no issues. You know, I usually talk to Tom Oswald at Illinois Central at least 3 or 4 times during the first week. I don't think I called him until 3 weeks later. Hey, I think we did okay, right? Yeah, so that's a good thing, so. This is different than what we normally do, because we normally don't go through all the operational reports. We usually provide it as a consent agenda. But I just want people, new board members, and also us, when you start a school, it's just, we just don't open the doors. It's a lot of stuff that goes on, there's a lot of moving parts, and now we're finding that communication is probably more important, because we have to let everybody know what's going on.
Yeah, I just comment that I find this invaluable. I've been here 12 years. This is really helpful to me. I really appreciate hearing and reading, you know, what goes on and all that goes into making this school tick. So thank you. Do we have anything on the governance manual? Do we want to talk about it at all, or do you want to just?
No, we're good, we're on track now. We'll have our third draft to you all in October, with hopefully a completion by the end of the year.
Thank you for your input.
Yep, well, that's there, and actually Jason did submit something, I think, as well, that I think we will include. Yep, so, yep, wanna introduce that, and then we'll,
Okay, apologize for the lateness, because we had intended to have more time for all of you to do this. But, basically we met with all the heads of the different divisions, and the admin team. And we passed this by John and Jim and Shane. And so this is what we came up with. Here's the draft right here. I guess we're open for questions, clarification, how we came up with questions, and this is really basically a synopsis of the conversations we had with everybody.
we had a brief time to review it today, so I think all in all, it looks good. I think we probably have to revisit it again, but there's just maybe just some subtle things, I think, like, just nuances, like for instance, when we say special education, we might wanna say student services, we might wanna have check boxes in some spots, so, you know, even like, and we didn't get as much time to go through this, but we will next week, we can do some written feedback, but, you know, for instance, maybe in the student services, do you know who to contact for special education, 504, English language services? And some of the things even like for the front office, when you stop into the front office, you stop in for, is it fees, is it drop off lunches, is it to get, early pickup, script cards? So, you know, for us, it might have, we'll probably spend a little bit more time and give you some feedback next week on that, so then we can figure out where the volume comes from front office, if it helps us to prepare in different ways for some of those things. But otherwise, I think it wasn't, pretty much, is that kind of fair, guys, from our admin meeting?
The great news is, thank you for all the hard work, you've come a long way, and there's some input from the admin team that'll probably make it better or more, evolved, but I think it's great, it's close, so, timetable?
Yeah, so timetable, I think, I didn't even know we had YouTube, so, but, you know, maybe you find out when you read the survey, exactly.
We
so.
learned that through Amanda.
See, like, exactly, see, this is why, yeah.
I feel better.
I know, exactly. So, timetable, I guess, you know, I've heard some differing things about, you know, with the new families, we wanna wait a bit, we don't wanna wait long. I think, how do we get that valuable information? You know, I've heard different timeframes, I think we would still, when's your first assessment kind of thing? That lower school is kind of where we hear some of that is.
Lower school assessments with MEA being an extended break this time, and we go into testing right after that. We have about a week and a half with Halloween, and then with the end of the quarter being on a Thursday. Our assessment should end the first week in November, and then we have parent-teacher conferences the following week, and we're doing the day off. We're trying that new experience for parents where they can do it in the evening for lower school or the day off on that Friday. So November 10th is, if my memory serves, I don't have my calendar up, I think it's November 10th. So that's when we should be caught up with all of our testing and have some type of idea of where our kiddos are.
Right. So I don't know if that's helpful, if that's too late. You know, we're trying to get valuable feedback from, probably our newest families and probably more the kindergarten families and so on, but that's just some thoughts. It doesn't mean that we have to do that.
Oh, because there's questions on here, are they used to?
Yeah, the other thing is, you know, it just
Would you have a non-applicable box you could put? Or do you want it to be?
I think to get the most value, we could, if we do this rule, if this actually is, distributed or the survey's taken in mid-November, then it gives people a chance to experience, if they're a new family, the first quarter, and they have.
Quarter ones,
Yeah.
They have more basis. And how many new families do we have every year? We have kindergarten, of course, but then, I mean.
About 60.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I asked Nancy, we stopped by after we got feedback from our meeting, and I think you had said 70. Yeah, 70 new families or 70 new students? Families, okay.
So just to give them an opportunity to experience the school firsthand for a quarter.
And where we were seeing the value of that new family, especially in the lower school, was when we had those conversations, was the fact that we wanted these new families to feel, are you feeling comfortable? You feel at ease, you know what's going on? Because those are very important to all of us, of course. Okay. So knowing mid-November, is that a good time frame that we could shoot for?
Well, I think a couple things that we can do is with this is, another item mentioned was an intro paragraph, conclusion paragraph. So I think a lot of this can be refined and even set up so that when we pick the day, it's just ready to go. So we can do all the planning to make sure that it gets set up with, I guess, our Survey Monkey,
yeah.
whatever it is, so.
Knowing that, Amanda has offered to help us and she's gonna be
Busy
pretty
with America.
swamped, but,
Oh, that's a good point.
Right.
but we will, be respectful.
Yeah.
And we can make a shot at setting it up and then have her help us.
Yep.
Right. So how about if we get additional feedback after our next admin meeting, just to get additional definition, and I don't think it's gonna change significantly at all, so it's,
So when's that next Tuesday?
it's on Tuesday.
So any other last feedback about, like, that first week of, like, October 3rd? Anything to us by October 3rd, if not, we're going, because we'll set it up.
Yep.
And then, okay.
So, and just because of, we got delayed as well with some other things, so how about if we'll get feedback to you by October 3rd. And,
Then do we want it to be on the agenda for the board meeting for October, for approval?
yeah,
Okay.
But it can all be set up and ready to go.
Right.
With the idea that there aren't any significant or any alterations, and then it could go out in November.
Well, and speaking of that, so we added at the very, very end, and we had this conversation based on, we just had this conversation based on, this is an anonymous survey, but, people, we wanted to do it in a way where, okay, if you are okay with being contacted, can we do that? Do we have to, because it's like, the survey's great, but if you want to be contacted on some of these issues that you may feel strongly about, or would you, it's like we wanted to figure out a way to have that platform of permission to be contacted if you're okay with that. Since we're going the route that it's anonymous, it's two per family household,
email.
one,
Yep.
yes. So I guess you're looking, is this something we want to do? And then I threw that in at the end.
Right.
You get those little statements on almost every survey that you get that say, check this box and
Right.
with your whatever, and here's your stuff if you want somebody to call you or, contact you.
I think it's the best of all possible worlds. You have anonymity if you want anonymity, and you have the ability to have direct contact with someone from the school if you want contact.
Right.
So
Okay.
I think it's a good solution.
I had thrown out the thought, I know even when you leave a comment in an online article, in order to leave a comment, you must have an email, you must sign in, and that just anonymous comments aren't allowed or accepted. Do we want to have that, and I'm just thinking out loud, do we want to require for those comments to be considered that an email must be included?
We decided, but, so you probably understand that you get a survey if you have an email attached, like, so when you sign up, if you have a two-parent household, one-parent household, you have your email attached, the survey will go just for that email. You only get one survey done per email, and then you have the option that we won't find out who's doing that, except in the end, if you want to, if you opt to. I like that.
Comments, I think, would be good, that's just.
I think this is a great example of one of the nuances that we need to sort out, so that if you want to actually have written comments that might in any way be read by others in the school community, that probably you do have to identify yourself, not because we're trying to be in any way big brother, but that if those comments are unsourced, then you have this problem of people anonymously saying things that could be teachers or administration.
So what if someone puts a comment, and maybe they make a complaint about a specific teacher or, you know, anyone that works in the building? So who, just because I'm thinking of data privacy, who sees the results and then, I mean, I just feel like it's kind of a gray area there on,
Well, I guess
I don't
my
know.
question would be, so I fill out the survey, I put that you can go ahead and contact me. What's my expectation of who's gonna contact me? and-
Contact me, right.
Right, who's gonna contact me and what resolution is that I already didn't have a pathway to solve?
Well, we can keep, I mean, because I think when we were here last time, it was like, you know, you wanted more than yes, no, you wanted it to go deeper. So that's, because we just had yes, nos, and then you all wanted to go deeper as to why. You know, like, did your child attend kindergarten camp this year? Yes, no, why? So if I write, my kid did not attend kindergarten camp because they weren't potty trained, do I have to then provide my email?
Right.
You know, I think that if you write a comment, we're not I mean, I don't think there's an opportunity in here, you know, for, you know, the why ones were the ones you guys, like, when you have a concern, who you contacted, teacher, principal, other. Like, I don't think there was a opportunity to be like, I don't like so-and-so, unless it's at the end, and maybe, you know, we either take that out or make that a requirement for now.
So those, I think, are some of those things we just have to try and figure
Okay.
sort out. And,
I guess another suggestion that came up was to have more breadth of answers instead of what is your perception. I think it was in the athletic department, what is your perception of the athletic department? Instead of phrasing it, is your perception, how would you categorize your perception? How do you perceive the athletic department and your satisfaction? Good, excellent, good, fair, poor. Very poor. So I'll give a little bit more of a. And then there were other questions, maybe that type of range would fit better for that question, or provide more information.
Like on facilities supporting the child's learning environment, like what does that mean? Adequate classroom space, lunchrooms, you know, I mean, what kinds of things, because if
Would
you
you
read that.
categorize that out further?
Yeah,
You know,
because,
it doesn't-
right, instead of just yes or no, you know, if I were reading that, I'm not sure what I would think that was asking.
Send it on in.
Yep, so we will, I think,
Yeah, we'll change, I mean, it's none of our thing. We'll do whatever.
And a lot of these are
Send it.
from, like Bill
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
this is what he wanted to know.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, because
Yeah,
when I
it's
was
like,
even
what does that
retyping, I
mean?
thought, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know,
And I think this is where you can kind of like get stuck in your little hamster wheel.
Yeah.
Should I change this word? Should I change this word?
Yep, and so we will apologize as well, because as you've heard, all of the stuff we're trying to do over the summer, it's like, okay, now we're just getting to this, so it's, you know, we can spend more time on this as well, so.
Well, I think this will be a great tool for parents, and
I do too.
I'm just really excited about that.
And thanks for doing this. Thank you both.
Very small, and when you're on your hamster wheel again, look at those. If they can knock you out.
Okay, next, annual report, and actually, I think the world's best, again, I do think that has been done.
Yeah, we voted on it last June.
Yeah, sorry, annual report is due October 1st. Yeah, I have to get this was sent to, everybody on July 19th for information, so the only thing that's changed is we've added the MCA scores. So we've changed 2 paragraphs, and that is the financial information, which I highlight on the summary page. So it just shows, how our fund balance has increased, I'm sorry, on this cover page of the.
it's behind us,
Yeah, so the only thing I've changed, I mean, this is the same as been what's submitted a couple months ago. So the only thing we changed was financial information, which has been updated from our bond issuance and then also from our preliminary audit work. And then, there's a state statute which Friends of Education wanted us to put into their annual report. Relates to a state statute which says we have to disseminate, school information in the form of flyers we have to disseminate our charter offering to underserved communities. So, we do that, Nancy and, Amanda have done this, and we get it to about 10 different places. So distribute the flyers, we do it a couple times a year. It has information about the school, it has information about, informational meetings and so on, so. Goodwill, Valley Outreach, Trinity Lutheran, City Hall, family meetings, some similar places in Mattawamkeag and White Bear Lake. So those are the two changes to the annual report. And the only reason, and perhaps it's my being naive, but I wanted to include the World's Best Workforce Report again, because I have the opportunity to combine those reports when I submit it to Friends of Education, so I would ask to do that. So, anything new on that information, Amy? It's the
Well,
same?
yeah, it's the same, I'm gonna change a little bit, and this will just change how I present it to the board, but, the way that the World's Best Workforce is the form that you fill out in 2016 is for 2015-16. And I've mentioned this before, but it's really backwards in the developmental plan of it. So we're gonna get through this year, or last year's form for this year, and then I've created kind of a Google Doc that I'm sharing with admin. And at the beginning of each year, we're gonna be creating goals and filling the form out for the next year. Does that make sense? Because otherwise, I get into a little hamster wheel in my head, like, what year am I talking about? What data am I supposed to be looking at? This was 2 years ago, and John and I got into that the other day, like, 2 years ago or 1 year ago, or this year, I don't even know. So we're gonna just fix that so that it will be more streamlined when we present it to you as well.
Okay, good. So, motion for,
I move to approve the World's Best Workforce annual report as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
And now there's a chance for more discussion or questions.
Just a simple typo, page 5.
Page 5.
It says 19, I think it should just be 9.
page 5,
Page 5.
which one is it?
It's like this third bullet point, it should say K through 9, not K through 19.
Oh,
We were very optimistic that year.
Okay.
We just can't stop growing.
I don't know if this is,
Maybe under, all students ready for kindergarten, it's toward the end. It's a table. I don't think there's a page on there.
Oh, the World's Best Workforce?
Summary, then it's where all students ready
Okay.
for kindergarten. There's a paragraph that starts with develop, then a paragraph that starts with at this time, then there's a paragraph that says add message on the importance and standards for kindergarten. Is that something that you meant to add, or is that?
No, I think that's the directions, and we just didn't delete that
So that
part.
needs
Yeah.
to be-
Okay,
Okay.
Did you encourage the people that are reading it?
I mean, I feel like I go through it in my sleep sometimes, you know, this binder, and just like, this is right next to my bed.
Any other corrections, edits, questions?
Backward facing lines, like MCA scores. Oh, that's a different document, sorry.
Okay. Okay. Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. And there's still time if people see things in this, obviously, if they're edits, it's not like the door just slammed, it's just, we've made the formal approval, but you can, continue to, technical edits are always allowed.
Keep not goals and then financials.
Yep. Okay, so, QCOM goals, so this is for the World Best Workforce, which are two separate things, but they're trying to merge them kind of into one thing. So they would like each site, which at our school is the different divisions, to kind of embed their site goals, which is their SMART goal, into World's Best Workforce. So the chart that you saw, which is what we're gonna try to do down the road. This QCOM cycle is what is tied to the $180 that teachers get, which is part of the stipend for QCOM. And if we reach it, then the teachers in that division get the $180. If we don't, as a whole school, whether you're PE or health, then we don't. Last year, upper school met it, lower and middle did not. Am I correct? Right? So, what the general
Point by barely.
it's really, yeah, it's like,
We missed it by 0.1.
Because
Yeah.
when you're at a certain level,
Yep.
to really add 2% every year makes it really hard. to
so
attain.
that's, this year is the year that marks the 2017 goal, which is, halfway to 100 by 2017, essentially. From halfway to 100 by 2017. And so what we're realizing is for middle and lower, we're almost to 90%, so we're gonna continue that 2% raise. But for upper school, they've reached their 90%, so we're doing a 1% raise. So if you kind of go through, a lot of this is just literally a form that I type in, so I'm just gonna kind of guide you to the goals here. The first one you have, this is lower school, so it says lower school on the front, and you will flip to step 6. There's no pages, so step 6, and it says we increased our goal 2% in the previous year MCA score, so last year lower school was 81.9, and we are gonna raise it to 80, our goal is to work 83.9, and this is with the, for reading. This is all for reading too, okay? Flip to the next school. This is middle school, and if you go to the same thing, step 6, we were at 88.7 last year, and you bump it 2% from what you received, not what your goal was last year. So whatever you got, whatever you came out to be, then you're bumping it 2%. So we came out to be in reading, middle school, MCA is 88.7, we're bumping it to 90.7. And then our last one is upper school, and they were at 92.7 last year, 10th grade MCA reading, and we're gonna make a goal of 93.7. Now, there is a high probability that I'll send this in, it's due October 1st, and we might get something back from the state saying, you can't do 1%. I don't know. But if that's the case, we'll figure it out and we'll go with it. We've had good communication with them this year. We had a conference call with them this week and it went really well, so I'm feeling good about that. But I do need this to be approved, this board meeting, so I can submit it first.
Any questions, concerns, thoughts?
Other questions, so this all pertains to reading. Can our SMART goals in our different PLCs relate to something other than reading?
Yes, your SMART goals that you are doing in your PLC, they can be different than our site goals.
Because that's a different pot of money, different things.
It's the same pot of money, it's QCOM, but, if you think of the flexibility that we want and the intentional, work that we want to be done in the PLCs, there needs to be some flexibility with that SMART goal. And it will all stream together really in the end, whether it's on math or science, it's all going to be going towards the diversity.
Because if we focus on a different subject, our goal is still to have, we still have a read well by 3rd grade expectations.
Yeah.
So we still always focus on reading.
And closing the achievement gap, et cetera.
And the big thing is always impact on student achievement.
That's the biggest thing for GCOM. Good question.
Any other questions?
That's really clear.
Hearing none, looking for a motion to approve the QCOM. Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Amy, you've been busy. You all have been busy.
I feel like I've been going to all the administrators' offices, like, I need to see your MDB account, I need data. I can't get
to the assigned retained earnings sheet, which is a blue and gold single page, somewhere in the financial packet.
Say that again?
Assigned retained, FY sixteen assigned retained earnings,
That,
or
thanks.
retained earnings assigned funds, excuse me.
Thank you.
It's behind the staple one. If you look up the staple packet. I think it's right in between, and I will just roll you forward from that to where we are. This is the FY sixteen full year interim financial statement, so it's unaudited. You'll be getting in November the audited financial statements when, Clifton Larson comes to present. So this is just, presenting to you in the same format you've been used to seeing our financials all year long. So really, what has changed, you'll see, in our highlights page across the top, if you look, you'll see second amended budget, and then to the right, first amended budget. Our second amended budget had 1,137 students. That's what we ended the year on. So that stayed consistent with year end. But if you look down to the bottom of that box, net income all funds, over to the second to the right column, from that amended budget, we're actually ending the year $156,000 more in the black than we were expecting. So we had amended it to be $619,000 anticipated net income. We ended with $775,000, and that's a difference of $156,000. That 50% to the right of that should be 25%. It's a 25% change from the end of the year. So what makes up that difference when we amended the budget on such so near to year end? Was what I would be thinking if I were you. So I'd like to highlight on those. And that 157,000, 52,000 of that is state revenue. That is greater than expected. Of that state revenue, 30,000 is referendum aid that isn't calculated, and PSEO aid that isn't really finalized till June. We don't know those numbers until we do our June financial statements. And 22,000 is a component. Oh, so that's part of it. And then the prior year under and over accrual. So this is an adjustment from FY15. These numbers are floating in Minnesota MDE database, but they take a lot of work to drill in it, and they're changing all the time. So that prior year over and under, unless it's in the black, we don't bother putting it there until year end. It's hard to explain, and it's usually a very immaterial amount. This year it snuck up to $22,000. 12,000 of that was an under accrual from our FY15 ADMs, and we're allowed through November of the year after the fiscal year to adjust our MARS data to the state, and so our ADMs are tweaked as a result of that. That came out in the black, $12,000, and state special ed numbers are still sorting themselves out until June of the year following, and that's 8,000. So all to say, from when I last reported revenue projections for the state, it increased 52,000 in the black. And it makes sense to me why it increased. And it's nothing we poorly forecast or misforecast, just numbers that didn't settle. The other component is local revenue, and that was still sorting itself out at year end with unpaid fees and fundraising that was still in limbo, just a few dollars. So really all of those local revenue dollars all came out in the black, or came out ahead of budget, not material amounts, but in total of 33,000 is a significant dollar. Salaries and benefits came in 40,000 under budget. And salaries was in excess of budget. From what I told you, it would be in June, and that was I dialed down salaries and benefits at that point, and I was a little too aggressive in dialing down our sub rates. I underestimated how many sub dollars we incurred those last couple weeks of school. Was a big piece of, or meaningful piece of that, and just a couple other tweaks. So in net, salaries and benefits was 40,000 under budget from what we projected, and, so that's how we came out $157,000 ahead of what we forecasted, based on our April year-to-date numbers. 775,000 is a nice big number. So let's see, that's number 2. Number 3, I wanted to bring you to the 3rd page of the financial highlights, which are really just pointing out our large checks to distill down those 25 pages of supplemental reports. So in the spring quarter, the non-recurring, there are no new recurring checks, so there's nothing to point out there, but our large non-recurrings, you'll notice, are dated to in the left column under non-recurring May through June. And those are all budgeted expenses, and within, any questions on those? The Skyward is our annual software, Cosme is the built-in casework, Unique Software are the notepads that we bought with the marathon funds, and the College Board with AP exams that were reimbursed with state aid and student fees. So those I would point out, and then you can just not even bother to look at the rest of those check ledgers. The next one I'd like to come back to is the bottom score on the first page here, key ratios and balances. So we have projected 2016, that is that actual 2016, and it's comparing it to the audited 2015. You'll see that our fund balance increased from 2.7 million to nearly 3.5 million. Our debt service ratio is 1.37. We have a bond covenant minimum of 1.1, so it's well within that. Our fund balance is 30% now after the close of the year. I'll state that we no longer have to live under our, the debt service coverage. We can keep our debt service coverage ratio at 1.1 and draw down our fund balance down to 20%. Right now it's at 3.4 million. If we were to live with it at 20% based on our new covenants, we could draw that fund balance down to 2.3 million. So that's 1.2 million that the board has the discretion to strategically direct.
This is what Kelly was talking about earlier when she was talking about the bond refunding, and that's a huge deal because that was an unresolved question where that fund balance was just set to increase in perpetuity. And it could have been $20 million in 15 years, so it gives us the flexibility to make choices, so thank you for knowing what to push on.
Thanks for distilling that, for retelling it. The cash on hand, $2.7 million in the bank. Days cash on hand, 87 days cash on hand, which means if on our average expenses, if money was just, the faucet was shut off, we could go 90 days and pay all our bills, which is a really very healthy days cash on hand. Our target is over 60, so again, that gives us freedom to pull down that days cash on hand on a couple of different metrics. So the year finished very strong, and I'll continue to try to forecast accurately, not just conservatively, so that you're given the best numbers, but I will continue to forecast conservatively, and that's really what, but still put as much into operations and compensation as possible. And that's a segue to this FY16 retained earnings assigned funds. Because there are expenses, we in charter school world live in a modified accrual basis, or not a full accrual basis, like we learned in college for for-profit companies. So a way around that is we have a retained earnings, which is our savings account. That's the $3.5 million. We can you as a board can assign or direct, intend that some of that money to be spent on expenditures where the revenue was earned in the current year and not expended in the current year. You'd like to see it expended in future years for a particular purpose. And I've itemized out what I propose we assign retained earnings from FY16 to FY17. And I'll just highlight those. First of all, the top one there is development, those are just, that's, pretty straightforward, those are funds raised that we didn't, expend as we, promised we would, or indicated we would to our donors. Any questions there, that 71,000? Parent group, same, and what we will see is a little bit different there is there's an FY14, funds expended. We were, saving for the playground, if you recall, 2 years ago, so that was our first tournament, and, so we've been now through, we're going into our 4th fiscal year with, the carnival, with funds going toward, the playground, or the parent group, yeah. And that, actually, that should be FY15, so we're going into our 3rd fiscal year. So there was FY15 of $593, it was actually, rolled forward, but there was 10,000 more that should have been rolled forward, and it wasn't, so there was a miscalculation of that 593. So I'm proposing assigning some of our retained earnings from that 15 that wasn't even assigned in 16. So bringing it up to 34,000, because that's the accurate number that has been earned by the parent group and not expended for the purposes expressed. Does that make sense? And that's just to say with script cards, there are a zillion moving pieces, so I will just leave it at that, and you're welcome to ask me more questions. Extracurriculars, just some small amounts, but they're meaningful to the stakeholders of those accounts, so out of respect for them, rolling those forward, that's $5,400. Total fundraising, $110,877. Q-Comp, these are funds received that they weren't expended. A portion of it is, say, the $180 that we budgeted for an all-school goal that was not expended. Whatever is not spent gets rolled forward, and I'm proposing that, 23,000. And this payroll stipend is a bit complicated. Historically, we have honored, and for the last 2 years now, so historically I'm saying for the past 2 years, we have rolled forward any amount of the salaries and benefits that would come in under budget. And this year that's $185,000. And how I get to that, I just wanted to lay it out here, and I think, though it's late, and I'll try to make clear on it. So we take what we originally budgeted, we back off what actual was, but in those two actual numbers, the 4.2 million and the 951,000 for benefits, there are two numbers that artificially inflate what the actual salaries and benefits were. One is the GASB 68 benefit expense, which artificially inflates the benefit expense, but it also artificially inflates revenue. So that's a wash that should not be considered in our real cost of salaries and benefits this year. And our allocated assigned earnings from the prior year actually gets posted to the FY16 salaries. It should not be included when we consider what our actual salary expenses incurred for FY16 were. So the net of all of that, and a slight rounding there to make it a nice round number, is $185,000. So I'd like to propose to the board, and I'm very comfortable given this condition of our fund balance, to do that is $185,000 assigned to payroll stipends or one-time pay adjustments in FY17. So the proposed assigned retained earnings, $319,500.
Couple questions. GASB probably has nothing to do with that stuff.
No.
Totally joking. So, are these practices the same practices that we've used in years past in terms of the GASB 68 benefit expense, in terms of this is the same calculation you've done each year to determine the amount of assigned retained earnings per salary?
Yes. Well, GASB 68's only been in place for 2 years.
Okay.
And the first year, the adjustment, and so GASB 68 adjustment requires the schools to reflect the amount of money that the proportionate amount of money that the state is contributing, because it's a state pension plan for TRA and PERA. It requires them to represent on our statements the revenue that the state is contributing. So basically, the state's putting money over here on your teacher's behalf and for your retirement. So we need to recognize that as revenue, but we also have to recognize it as expense.
So it's just being doubled.
It's a wash on the bottom
Yep,
line.
yep,
So this 104 should not be considered, it artificially inflates the benefit number, and so in the spirit of what I'm trying to do is to give the teachers what we said we could give them at the beginning of the year. That should be taken out.
Okay, yep.
As in the, 108,000 is really the same thing, because it gets booked to this year, but really it was assigned from prior year.
That's great, and I think I understand, but what I'm mainly concerned about is that we're maintaining the same basic process so that when we go and look at this next year, we have the same exact dynamic. The numbers will be different, or the principles are the same as last year, because this is the second year.
Well, I know you're trying to wrap it up, but GASB is exceptionally high this year because the Duluth Public Schools put their retirement system into the state pension system, and it threw everything out of whack, so it'll probably go back, what?
Wow, we're way into the weeds now.
It'll probably go back to 10,000, it'll probably go back to 10,000 next year, and it won't
All
be
right.
meaningful.
Well, so the issue at hand is, are we comfortable with the $185,000 number for payroll stipends?
How does it compare to last year?
The year before it was about 120, last year it was, I believe, 105,000.
And it will be disseminated in the same sort of way?
Future conversation, I think.
Okay. Not necessarily rolled into what we're doing? No, okay.
Possibly, but,
Okay, to be determined.
but what we're doing now in the compensation plan is for FY 18.
Right.
17, 18 is 18, okay.
And this is FY 17, this would be to be paid out this year, so it's this year's.
Got it.
And most of this is benefits that I just over-accrue for. It's substitute teachers that I over-accrue for, and then we see the benefit at the end.
So in other words, you're saying you wanna allocate this for stipends and then go through an analysis of how we wanna do that based on additional conversations.
Right, I mean, we can do what we've done the last 2 years, but I think that should be another comment. Oh, now I'm recalling how you have articulated this in the past is to be allocated at the division director and executive director's discretion.
Do we need to do that this meeting or?
I don't think we have to do it tonight, but I think,
Would you like to approve it before it's disseminated? In the
Approve the
past, we've
dollar
given it
amount.
to their.
I like the idea of approving the dollar amount tonight and then having a conversation about what the process is for distribution of stipends based on, starting earlier.
Okay, we'll bring a proposal, the admin team will bring a proposal.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Do- Yeah, do you wanna say how we've done that in the past with the directors at all, just for background, or do we wanna? Okay. No.
I won't say it eloquently unless someone else would like to.
We've had a lot of them down the line. We know where's kind of the conversation, right? We've had a lot of discretion to just do as we see fit, kind of agreeing on certain amounts and then having basically one-to-one conversations with individual people about this part of your making work, whatever it is. So it's, I mean, I hope I'm speaking, to both of you. But, and it's been a very positive, for the most part, I think, experience for everyone all the way around. To be able to, as an administrator, recognize an individual teacher for something very specific to what they do is and to say, and even a small amount, people say, well, this is so thoughtful. So, I mean, I think it's a powerful tool and unusual in this line of work.
And it's been dollar amount between $750 and $1,500 per teacher, so it's a nice, meaningful, one-time pay adjustment.
Okay.
And that was at the 105,000 last time,
Yeah.
and this is 185, so potentially.
Becomes more meaningful.
So do you need a
Motion?
I approve the, financials as presented, and then another motion to approve the retained earnings assigned funds.
So then the retained earning assigned funds will continue in their buckets and continue to deliver on, so parent group, it might not be, well, the 71,000 will continue in that development to continue to fund the items that they're indicated for, correct?
Right.
Okay. And QCOM, what's QCOM used for? Is that for
It's
continued?
just unexpended, so it has to stay in that bucket.
Okay.
Staff development and, check out for that.
Okay, curriculum, okay,
Anything staff development.
I'm fine.
More? Questions, anyone? All right, looking for a motion to approve preliminary financial statement dated June 2016.
Motion.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Now looking for a motion to approve the FY16 retained earning assigned funds.
So moved. I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm not going to ask. Opposed, all right.
One quick question. Kelly, the cash on hand, is that considered part of the reserves? The reserves balance?
Yes, exactly.
So is there a liquidity requirement of the reserves balance that's placed upon us?
No.
So could we invest some of the reserves beyond what you feel comfortable?
Starting grad school for education leadership, so I grew a lot as a professional, just learning about how an organization works.
Yes, I was going to mention that.
I know that all of us, so when we talk about the adoption curve, we all kind of laugh, but, you know, as many of us have lived on that pre-chasm side, there is the, you know, somebody who has worked on colors, mascots, student council, National Honor Society, been in buildings that should not be inhabited by school children, or classrooms fit for, even 20 kids. But we appreciate your service and leadership and building and your handshake that you are.
Well, thank you, and yeah, we met at a job fair. I think we talked about Hobbs, but Calvin and Hobbs. But then also a little bit of Hobbs luck. So, you know, I was hired in May, and I attended my first board meeting in June before I started next year, because I was curious about what was going on. It's up in the art space over on 2nd Street. And certainly things have changed greatly since then. I mean, you know, we're in this building. You were mentioning lockers. One of my favorite memories is our first year here, having to teach the seniors how to open lockers, because they had never ever, you know, known how to open. And Katara is sitting there. How do I do this?
So you thought 5th graders had a hard time? Seniors.
You know, and I think the work that we have done as a board and as a school is tremendous, and I think that's starting to be recognized, and we see it in the results. But you also see it in, you know, we have many students now that are out in the world and doing great things, and I think that's real. I think that work certainly needs to continue. And we've had a few struggles and low bumps and one very long night. You know, have carried us through, but, you know, as John has reminded us before, and I believe when we first started this building, that, you know, success is never final, and failure is never fatal, and I think, you know, we continue to move forward with that. There are some voices that continue to be critical, and I think there is some healthiness in being critical, but I think making sure that there are those who are willing to step up and to engage in meaningful conversation and move it forward. You know, we're doing work with a governance manual here. We're doing work that you heard about with the parent survey. We're constantly improving, and we're constantly doing things here that are moving us forward. And I believe that we have strong leadership and a strong faculty and a strong staff and excellent parents and involved students that will move us forward with that. And I think that's very important. I truly believe that we are thriving. And I think that is being borne out by the metrics that we are measured against. So thank you to Shane and to Beth and to Susan. we haven't spent a lot of time together on the board, but certainly I feel that leaving it in good hands. To Nicole and Deb and Amy, thank you. We've obviously spent a lot more time, so thank you for your service. I know, having been a former faculty member on the board, that it's a difficult position, and you've done it well. So thank you for that service. To Joanne and to Corey and to Wanda, thank you for your work, for the administration, and for moving us forward. I would like to just let you know that you can blame Andrew for any of my conduct. Andrew was on the panel in my first interview and was my mentor teacher, so any complaints, just direct them to Andrew there across the way. But certainly.
I was at that thing too, at the job fair. I was
Yes,
standing behind him.
that's true.
Who's
Get rid of that guy. So Andrew, certainly, thank you. There are, three major people, I think, in the life of the school that have moved us forward along with everyone else. Kelly, thank you for everything that you do for the school. You're really the soul of the school in many ways. Jim, thank you for your friendship, for coming back, for coming out of retirement.
Thank you for coming back.
And for your leadership. We would not be where we are today without you. And John, thank you for everything that you have done for helping to build the school, along certainly Kelly and your vision. Your leadership and your mentorship have meant the world to me. Certainly, I would not be in the position I am today without the experiences that I've had here, and all of you have impacted that. I get to work with a governing board every day, and Nancy, thank you for your support of this board. So, I always think of the Margaret Mead quote, and I think this board and this school can continue to do great things. So, thank you so much. Thank you for indulging me both with my resolution earlier and my soliloquy now.
Shall we adjourn? Any further business? Hearing none, looking for a motion to adjourn. So, second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you all so much.